What's up, everybody? It's Keefe from Ghost Cult Magazine, and I am fortunate to be here today, joined by my friend and peer, Evil Robb. How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm all right. Living life and trying to get through this fucking shit.
Exactly. Trying to get through this fucking shit should be the title of all our autobiographies after this.
Yeah.
It has been ridiculous, a ridiculous time in our lives. I know you over a decade. You are a guy who has probably done hundreds of shows a year, multiple shows a night sometimes,
Yep.
countless festivals, band photo shoots. Concert photography is your thing, band shoots, music videos more recently, other things. And I never in my life would have imagined we were going to have like a year with no shows.
No, it's absolutely insane. Like me going 4 days without a show was just like almost unheard of back in the day, like a year ago. And then like now it's been over a year since I shot a show. It's insane.
Right. What was your last show before the?
My last show was at the House of Blues, and it was Machine Head. So it was 3 hours of Machine Head. So I mean, if that was my last show for a while, it was pretty memorable.
That tour was incredible. I saw it
Yeah.
in New York the night. I think either the night before or after Boston.
Yeah.
How good was Contos? That's all I want to talk about.
Oh my God, they were so good. So good.
I want to just talk. I just want to interview him now and talk
Right.
about like being Chris Contos.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for hours.
Yeah, and then I got to hang out with him a little bit after the show, and he
Yeah.
is wonderful and very humble, and
Yeah.
couldn't believe that people are still stoked on him and his work. And
Yeah.
that was a great tour. And Machine Head, they don't really enjoy a lot of photographers, because I know
No.
Robb likes to shoot photos himself casually, and has a new appreciation for concert photography, but typically they don't do a lot of press or
Right.
photography.
Yeah. I think the last time they were around, they didn't have anybody. And I know somebody who was on the tour, their lighting guy. He's like, dude, I can't. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I get it. He's like, we're not doing press. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
I figured I'd skirt around, the PR to get in, and they're like, yeah, I can't help you.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to make that happen, but
sometimes you can do it if you've got a friend on the tour or another band. Typically with a band like Machine Head, they're very, and rightly so, look that they have been been through a lot with the press and fans at times.
right, yeah.
And they're very, Robb in particular, Robb Flynn is very controlling of their image, all due respect. And they are great to photograph live. They are a fantastic
my photos from that are amazing. I've got so many photos of Logan jumping up in the air. It's like, how many more jump shots do I need? It's almost insane, almost too much.
He's still the same dude from like the 90s just now.
He's great. It was a great show, man. I wish I did more of that tour.
It was amazing. I think my last show, that was a show. I did a couple of other events. I did the Ice-T body count listening party where I got the photo with Ice-T. I did I mentioned before we started the Michael Alago book signing. But my last show that I covered was Soulfly and Toxic Holocaust.
Oh, wow.
It was at St. Vitus. So, it's like packed,
Yeah.
literally squished like this the whole time against the wall and people. And right now, it's like, as much as I miss shows and I love concerts and live music is my life,
Right.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Can't imagine it, even with the vaccine.
Man, I did a smaller thing at Halloween at this little club in New Hampshire, and it was supposed to be socially distanced and limited capacity. But as soon as the bangs came on, everybody kind of went towards the front of the stage, and I was like, yo, I'm done. I'm gonna go in the back and just kind of get away, because nobody was wearing masks, and I had a mask on. I'm like, yeah, I'm out, man. Like, screw this. I'm gonna go back here and shoot over people's heads on picnic tables.
They take that live free or die shit seriously. I lived in New Hampshire for a year and almost, and they don't fuck around.
I have a friend up there who still won't, like, he'll go to a store. If they tell him to wear a mask, he'll go somewhere else. He was like, no, I'm not coming in. Just like, I don't even have one. I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
My favorite thing for the whole pandemic has been Instacart. I don't know.
Dude, I
deliver groceries right to my house.
Yeah, dude, I do that. I did that yesterday.
And I still wipe them all down with wipes.
Yeah.
I was already sick once at the start of the year. I had the antibody test more recently because I had to get tested to travel, and so I didn't have. Like back when I had pneumonia that wouldn't go away, it was probably the COVID. But
I thought I had pneumonia in early 2020, and and I think after now, I think it was COVID because I was as sick as I've ever been. Like I
Same.
passed out once going upstairs, like because I couldn't breathe. I was
Right.
like, oh my God, I'm dying.
Yeah, this is, yeah. And again, I'm not making light of this. Anybody that has lost anybody, every one of these interviews, I'm doing like a personal check-in. I know you for, like I said,
yeah,
I've been shoulder to shoulder with you in the photo pit. You're one of the first photographers that was cool to me when I sort of picked up a camera and started to do shows. I credit you. I credit Hillary Jason. I credit Jeremy Saffer, people in New England when I lived there who were like, yeah, come on in. It's cool as long as you don't get in our way.
right,
Noob. But nobody even treated me like that. Everybody was mad cool.
Yeah.
And obviously, look, you know, like we have a lot of friends in the scene and a lot of artists have passed away, older artists.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want anyone. This is a terrible thing. A lot of people died unnecessarily, whatever you believe. I do think we're going to get it back. But like, yeah, just like you just said, I don't know when I'm going to feel confident, even with the vaccine. I don't foresee myself not wearing a mask in a show.
Yeah. I'm going to, like, there's one in my camera bag now at all times, you know? So I don't know how long that'll be there or, you know, if it'll ever come out.
I got a cool anthrax one and a gore one.
Nice. I just wear like neck gaiters that I cut down into triangles to cover my beard because my beard, you know, look like
they were saying beards are like a big plague spreader.
Oh, awesome. Great.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? My best feature.
Yeah, I know. My best feature covers my worst feature, my face.
Exactly. But that's why we take the pictures. We're not in the pictures. But,
exactly.
Yeah, man, I do think we're going to get it back. I am encouraged to see festivals and some tours being announced worldwide. It's interesting. I saw that Furnace Fest get announced for Alabama, and immediately like 3 or 4 Ghost Cult photographers were like, can I go cover this? And we have somebody in that area that covers stuff. But I would love, I mean, it's a killer lineup. I would love to go. It's like Kill Switch and, you know, Converge and Hatebreed and Zao and all these bands that I really dig. But also like it's Alabama. Even if I have the vaccine, I got to fly to the Southeast and trust all those people are as, you know, cautious as me. I don't know.
The thing was being a concert photographer, mate, like you can not necessarily be in the crowd all day. You can just do your photos and just kind of dip back into the media tent where it's a smaller amount of people.
Right.
That's what I like. I like that kind of stuff. Like I'm not going to be stuck out in the crowd with a bunch of drunk jerks, you know, just going crazy.
Right.
No offense to drunk jerks, but
I used to be one of those drunk jerks. So
me too.
Not so much. Yeah, not so much. We were once those drunk jerks together. Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be weird, and we are going to get it back. I am confident. It's going to be slow.
Yeah.
And it may never be 100% the same. And so here's the thing: you were just talking about Machine Head. I have been speculating with other photographers and just industry people, site owners, editors, writers. You know, like your little club shows, St. Vitus, you know, maybe the Middle East, if it's still there when this is over or whatever. Your smaller club shows are going to be tenable. Underground bands, you'll always be able to get in and shoot a couple of shots and leave.
Yeah.
But like, I wonder for them, like House of Blues style bands, like, are they going to have a ticket buy on? If your ticket is already $40 or $50 and you're not expecting to ever have like 3,000 people at a show again for a while, can they afford to buy like 10 tickets, like photo passes they can give as long as they're not, you know, as long as it's fire safe and, you know, talking about Boston and New England and stuff. Right. But like a ticket buy on could be thousands of dollars for a tour.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't afford it anymore.
Right. Exactly. You know, and I think the last few years of House of Blues, you definitely needed a ticket to get in. Because there was times where I didn't. I was just like, oh, you know, I'm just going to roll in and, you know, do my thing. And now they were locking down on stuff. Like you definitely needed a ticket to get in, and which I get, but
yeah, that's Live Nation seems to, you know, they took out an interest-free loan for 27 years and they reported a growth in ticket sales despite no concerts and tours, and they laid off a lot of people. And I love going to those venues and I love a lot of people at Live Nation, no disrespect, but also they're not hurting. We're all hurting. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, I think what people don't, you know, like we like to say, like, you can't eat credit, right? So like if you go shoot 20 bands in 31 days in a month, you might parlay some of those, you might have done all that work, all that editing, all this gear you paid for, all the software to keep up with, but you may land a couple of paid gigs as a result of those 20 gigs.
Yeah.
And that few paying gigs can help with rent, can help you get new gear, new lens, whatever. It's kind of odd that in this time, I'm sure no one was considering our feelings because they don't, but I think it's kind of amazing that at the same time that this pandemic happened, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, they all have brand new camera bodies. They all have brand new, oh yeah, the old lenses, you need an adapter or they don't work. The R lenses,
exactly,
like the R mount, right? For Canon. So like, you know, good luck, y'all.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Shit for yourself, as we used to say.
And then they do offer the free like tutorials on their sites. Oh, we here's some free Nikon school. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Now you're still trying to shill me on your new products and stuff.
It's interesting to see if I'll ask your opinion about this. Do you think that during this pandemic, more people will put their cameras down and not come back? Or do you think that more people had the free time to work on their craft like you have and continue to evolve and get better?
I think a lot of people are just going to stop. I don't think there's going to be as many as there used to be, because the last year or two, there was just a ton of new kids just coming in. And I'm like, who's that dude? I've never seen that dude before. And then, you know, they give me an attitude. I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. But yeah, I don't think a lot of them are going to come back, you know, because they're not invested. I think they thought it was fun. And then when it disappeared, they found something else to do, you know? Like I know people who haven't touched their camera in a year, you know?
That's insane and sad.
Yeah.
We turned the pandemic into an opportunity to be more creative. I have spent more time on Ghost Cult than I ever have before, which seems insane if you think about it, how much time I have actually sunk into this myself. Omar, you, other people on staff, just kind of working on things all the time.
Yeah.
But and I understand it's the same thing. Like I say to bands, like if you felt like I can't succeed in this environment, the board game has changed. The playing field, let's say, has changed. So I don't know how to survive in this environment. I understand. If you're used to doing things one way, I get up, I go to a show, there's a pass and a ticket for me, I go shoot my show, I wait for the bands, I shoot the bands, I go home, I edit, I put up a set, I do a review maybe, I send it to my editor, I send it to the band, whatever. I post on Instagram, I tag, and that's like, that becomes your life. And then it was gone.
Right.
So like on one hand, if somebody said like, oh, I don't know how to do this anymore, I have to figure out something else to do. I understand that could be daunting, expensive. We're all kind of having a mass psychotic break because of the world. And that's, it's okay to not be okay. I'm the big supporter of that. I always say that. But at the same time, I feel like if you spent this whole year not doing anything, when it does come back, I'd like to think, because we've been working, we're going to continue to go back and get opportunities in the future because we've kept doing stuff and supporting the scene and covering bands.
Absolutely. Like I'm still shooting local bands every once in a while, not as much as I used to, but every once in a while, a local band would come up and like, hey, I need a photo shoot. All right, cool. I had one band, this band Okami from Rhode Island. They wanted to shoot at a haunted house, so I made a shoot happen at the Conjuring house. I was like, they were like, how'd you get this to happen? I'm like, I just asked, dude, and I know the dude, and somebody made an introduction, and we made it happen, and they were like, holy shit, it's awesome.
Sometimes that's all you need to do is definitely ask. I literally, by the way, just caught myself in the monitor, and I realized we spent like 5 minutes talking about Machine Head, and I'm like literally an ad for Machine Head right now with this hat, and there's a banner behind me also. Anyway, Machine Head for life. Shameless plug. Anyway, before we get into this awesome news that you have, which I definitely want to talk all about and promote, I am very excited. Besides, you said you've been doing some video shoots, so you started doing more music videos, and you have shot some in the past. And I know you got into drone photography and infrared photography. Love your infrared stuff. Talk about that a little bit, and what that's doing for you creatively.
Basically, I had like an extra camera kicking around, so I've always wanted to convert a camera in infrared, but I never had an extra camera to do it with. So like when everything shut down, I looked into it and I think it was like $300. I was like, oh, that's doable. So I shipped it off, had it sent out. And then the first thing I did, I went to a graveyard where I lived and just took a bunch of like infrared photos of the graveyard. I edited them and watched some videos on how to edit everything and whatnot. And they looked amazing. And I was like, holy shit, this is really cool. And then I sold like 5 photos in a week from that stuff, and it was more than I sold for concert stuff at like 6. I was like, wow, it's pretty good. So I'm gonna keep going and doing that more. So I just scoped out like a lot. Like it seems like the graveyards seem to be the coolest place because like the contrast with the grass and the stones and all that cool stuff. It really works in infrared photography. So I did that, and then like in August I bought a drone because I thought like shooting different things with a drone would be cool. And then I just found out like there's a ton of lighthouses where I used to live. So I would just go to lighthouses and get sunsets and just, fly around fucking places and stuff and just shoot as much as I could with it, and practiced. I crashed one once, put it in the ocean, which sucked, but you live and learn, And then then I've been doing some low budget music videos for local bands in the area, So I've done 3, I think, in the last year, and I think I've got another one coming up, which is cool. It's a little bit of income since I'm not working really, but it's cool. I dig it. And it definitely like the infrared stuff just opened a whole nother world of creativity to me. It's just you see things different. Like I also used to seeing dudes on stages with like green and red lights, and that's all I've done for a long time. So like seeing things in a different light through a different viewfinder of a camera is pretty cool. And I just dug it. I just dug it a lot. And landscapes, like landscapes are really cool. I like doing that stuff too.
I was gonna say, I think you have an underrated eye for nature, and you always have, actually.
Yeah.
And I think this has been a great opportunity for you to dive into that more.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm gonna do that more. Like I'm gonna divide everything up better, because there was a time where I would just go to shows every night I could and just focus on that because that's all I was really into, And then I started shooting models recently too, which is a whole different animal, like crazy, like, but it's awesome, different world.
I've never personally been much of a portrait photographer. I've done a couple of shoots, but nothing really major. And I've shot like maybe 2 bands ever. Actually, I used to live near that cemetery that you shot a lot at. And I can't talk about some of the unspeakable things that I did there. And in my younger stupid days and when I first moved up. But yeah, man, kudos to you for, again, I think it's, if you can, keep a fist in what's creative as a way to tide you over until hopefully things come back.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep busy, and not go insane from the lack of activities.
Indeed. And so as much sadness as I have had, the lack of events and shows to do, let's talk about something really awesome that you are really fortunate to be part of. I have to give enormous props to Steel Panther. Not normally a band I talk a lot about, but you have to give them respect. They are doing this thing. They already started it. It's called Sex, JPEGs, and Rock and Roll.
Yes.
They are the only major band I can think of that is literally doing basically what amounts to an outreach and a fundraiser to concert and band photographers to help promote them. They picked 6 or 7 photographers, some of the biggest names you can imagine. And then
me. And then me.
Well, you just listen, man. You've been at this a long time, and you have shot, I think, Steel Panther tons of times.
Yeah. I've known them for 12 years now. Like, and they're just always awesome and always super inviting and let me do whatever I need to do and just let me do things. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, you've gotten some fantastic shots of them. They're great live. Like they're a lot of fun. And so they're doing this thing. Basically, they're going to interview you and interview this series of photographers. Talk about, I imagine, some shared experiences with the band.
Yeah, we're going to go over the photos I took. That I had to submit 25 photos to the band for approval for them to narrow it down to sell. I think they're doing 12 or 15 photos of mine that they're selling on their website, and they're splitting all profits with me and the other photographers that they chose. So they picked 7, I think, and I think I'm the 4th one. So it's pretty cool.
I can't tell you how mind blowing this is, because
me neither. Like
it's concert photographers in particular and band photographers. Not that they're the redheaded stepchildren of photography, but literally, so like they don't get the same respect as National Geographic awarded the annual best photo of the year of some guy that got a cheetah with a 600 in a weed. In the weeds in the Sahara or whatever in Africa. And that's cool. And I love nature photography. I love animal photography and concert photography. We are in our own little bubble.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so it's really cool that they did this. They definitely, they pick the cream of the crop. Don't dog yourself. You've been at this a long time. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. I would like to see more bands do this. I wonder if they will do it again.
I think they might. Yeah.
Very generous of them to do this. It's
Yeah.
generous of them to use their voice to promote this small group of people in the sphere of the music business.
I've had big bands ask me for my stuff, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to sell this," and I'm like, "What's the commission?" And they're like, "Oh, nothing. We gave you the pass to shoot this stuff." I was like, all right, no, maybe not then. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a big debate about ownership. Who do you own the photo you took? That's a creation of art that you use the machine you bought to take, or does the artist own all their likenesses forever? And like, for those that don't understand, like, you can shoot most bands. There's no contract. It's a handshake agreement. You are trying to put them in the best light. We all serve the same ecosystem in the music industry: websites, journalists, editors, photographers, publicists, record labels, and bands. We all live in the same system. We're in a symbiotic relationship, right?
Yeah.
Quote, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And, because it's always a good time for Star Wars. And at the same time, at the bigger level, the bands, they want to be able to control their likeness. So I understand bands that don't like, we said Machine Head in the past has not welcomed a lot of photographers. Tool, and in particular Maynard, has been notorious about not liking and letting photographers. Some big bands, A Day to Remember, if you're like down with them and they like you, they'll let you shoot, but they say no to like 95% of people that ask. And no disrespect to them, but I'm just saying, like, that's how they have always rolled.
I get when a band asks for, like, they approval. They don't want a bad image of the band out. Like Alice in Chains is one that is really popular, right? Like they want to see their images before they approve them. And same thing with Whitesnake. They just don't want pictures of David Coverdale looking terrible. You know what I mean? And I get it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want a photo of myself looking like crap on, out there in the public.
Slash as well. Slash is another one. He's very particular about how he's represented live. We have been lucky to cover both, at least cover Slash with his solo band with Miles Kennedy. Infamously, GNR approves very few to no photographers. They have their own legendary photographer that works with them, Katrina Benzova, who's incredible. And usually what the band will do is they will let their publicist give out some of her photos from the tour to the press to use. So you see the same photos of GNR again and again, and very few other original photos.
Right.
This is why when I have a chance and I have a news story and I have this, fortunately for Ghost Cult, this trove of, years of photography that other photographers have shared with me and my own, I try to use that stuff. I try to tag our people. I try to use our stuff when I can, because number one, every press release has the same photo that everyone's going to use anyway.
Right, exactly.
And then I have a chance to have an original photo. So that actually also helps us stand out a little more. But for Steel Panther to do this, it's incredible. You mentioned earlier that there are definitely, there was a lot of people showing up the last few years for whatever reason. I think, the proliferation of cameras, it's easier to get started now. I think the internet has kind of made concert photography a little bit toxic and competitive. It always was a little competitive, but now it's like very shitty online. I urge anybody watching not to do the Facebook groups on concert photography. Most of them are garbage. I'm not part of them much anymore. I was at one time. And it's just very shitty. Everybody jealous and hating instead of lifting everybody up, which is what we like to do.
Yeah, definitely. I got a text message about it from some photographer friend, quote unquote friend, a couple of weeks ago, that I didn't put their name out to Steel Panther as well. I was like, listen, I got asked to do it. This has nothing to do with me, and this was all decided before the beginning of the year. So I can't do anything now, and no offense, but if your images are good, they would have stood out and they would have called you. You know what I mean? I had Stix it in you actually text me. He's like, are you interested in this? I'm like, absolutely. What do I got to do? He's like, I'll give you the email and you're one of the dudes we want. I'm like, awesome, dude. I'm in no matter what it is, So, but it's just weird. People get jealous of people's other opportunities. And I've worked hard for this stuff, and I've been shooting for 25 years, so I'm pretty proud of being picked, you know.
You should be, and I'm proud of you, dude. And
Yeah.
this is a really, it's a big deal for you. I think it's a big deal for the band to do
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
I can't say thank you enough to Steel Panther for doing
Yeah.
this and picking these people. And I hope they do it again. And I hope some other bands, a
Yeah.
lot of bands have gotten what amounts to incredible
Right.
free photography for
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
Like pay it forward a little, use your voice a little, besides selling a shirt and another
Yeah.
stream and another Spotify link.
Yeah.
Help support some bands that have supported you. Help support this system
Yeah.
that has, you know, helped you. I would love to see it take off and become something that is common.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Because I mean, I have a lot of relationships with other bands that I could do this with as well. You know what I mean? Because there's bands where I've shot, you know, tons of bands over and over and over again, and we're just friends now. It's like, hey, you know, we're coming to town. I'm like, all right, cool. I was going to be there. I mean, anyways, thanks for reaching out. And they give me access to their whole set, you know, which is cool.
Who are some of your favorite bands to shoot? I know there's a bunch.
Killswitch Engage is really good. The dudes in Hollywood Undead, I've known them guys for like, I don't know, 10 years, maybe longer, but they're always having me out and they always let me do whatever I want. Who else? Godsmack. I recently did a bunch of stuff. 2 years ago, I did a bunch of stuff for Disturbed because my friend Dennis works for them, and he kind of set that up. Because Dennis used to work for Seven Dust, and Seven Dust is another band that I've known since they were newbies, like they were little babies when I first met them in like '97, and I've shot every time they've come to New England, and you know, and last time I shot them, they gave my son a photo pass, so me and my son were in the photo pit shooting the band, and it was just an awesome show. There's a photo somewhere online that when I took Logan to see Seven Dust when he was maybe a year and a half, we drove to New York to see him on an acoustic tour, and he's being held up by his mom, and he's like 2 in a bit, you know, little baby photo with the band Seven Dust from like 20 years ago, which is cool. So having him in the photo pit with me was awesome, you know. And I don't even think I took a lot of photos that night. I was just kind of like watching him interact with the band and like, oh my god, that's low, you know. It was really cool, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, Seven Dust guys are always wonderful.
Oh yeah,
one of my favorite bands.
The best. Yeah.
My favorite bands ever.
Yeah.
And I love their latest record, and looking forward to another. I was saying I couldn't believe that Animosity turned 20. So that's still like only 3 records in for them. That just turned 20 in January. And wow. I've been following that band since they were Crawl Space. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just the Mortal Kombat soundtrack.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. Like that I've been doing it. That like I don't even really think of it sometimes. It's like, holy shit, I shot my first, like I was shooting shows with my uncle, sneaking cameras into like the Centrum when I was a kid. And then like I started working for WAF in Boston, and they asked me if I could shoot photos. I'm like, yeah, my camera's in the car. And it was a Limp Bizkit show. So it was Limp Bizkit and Korn, I think, as an indoor beach party. And
sure.
I shot that for the station, and that's how I kind of started, you know.
And you had an interesting early career interaction that really convinced you were on the right path. Is that right?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Dimebag.
Oh yeah, Dime. Yeah, Dime would tell me like, you know, bring a camera or whatever and just shoot. And like some days I would have a photo pass and some days I wouldn't. Like he'd always leave me something like a VIP or a photo pass. So like I would always go to shows. Like they would play Boston, and he's like, hey, you want to come to the show tomorrow? I'm like, where is it? He's like, oh, it's like Philly. I'm like, all right. And my friends would be like, why are you going to Philly? I'm like, because Dime's going to take care of me. Do you want to go? He's like, no, nobody wanted to go. So I'd go to by myself, and I just kind of roll around and, you know, just be there. And, you know, I saw Pantera a lot, man. Like they were like my favorite band at the time. And I love those dudes still. And it still bums me out that they're gone, you know?
Yeah. It's super sad.
Yeah, it's super sad, but I don't know. It's just, I love, like, I cut my teeth shooting Pantera, like, you know, seeing fire and, you know, the craziness that was all around them all the time. It was just amazing.
Yeah, you've got some definitely rare, never before seen stuff from a lot of bands, but the Pantera ones are my favorite. And I feel fortunate that you shared them with us. And whenever we remember those guys, and like Vinny is still very fresh, just a couple of years. We always share those intimate shots of those guys that I love. And I actually there's a brand new music documentary. I got to see it early called Long Live Rock. And there's a huge section of it that's about Vinny and the big tribute they did to him a couple of years ago at one of the big festivals, because it's kind of surrounding if rock and metal are dead, you'd have to tell this like 100,000 people that go to Sonic Temple or Rock on the Range every year, right? Those crew people. So they did a big. Vinny had passed away the summer before, and they did a big tribute to him. So you know, it was pretty heavy, and I'd say, you know, just like my heart. But yeah, man, it's cool that you had people who encourage you. This is like the point I wanted to make was it's really cool that band people, not just your friends or yourself. I want to do this thing because I have a passion for photography. I love music. I want to get into shows. That's why a lot of people do photography. They want to get into shows.
Honestly, like when I was a kid, I wanted to play guitar, but I was terrible. I was the worst. So my parents was just like, you know, you're pretty good at the camera. Why don't you just take pictures of rock bands or whatever? Because I was going to shows like all the time. Like every weekend there was a place in the beach called Chapter 2. They had like thrash bands there all the time. I think I saw Propane there. I might have seen Crowbar there. I saw Guar on the first time there. And it was like basically like an old warehouse with like garage doors on one end, and bands would just load in and play. And I would bring my cameras and nobody would say anything. Like we didn't need photo passes. You just like, okay, cool. Shoot a couple rolls of film and then you'd have fun the rest of the time and hang out and watch the bands, you know? And then like the next time that band would come, I would show them some photos. They're like, wow, this is really good. You should come shoot. You should shoot again tonight. I'm like, all right, cool. I got my camera, you know, and it just kind of snowballed, you know, kind of like low key networking with people, you know, like, and that's what, like I met Vinny and Dime, I think at the Channel when they opened for Suicidal Tendencies. And I think I was shooting photos there, but I don't think I got anything really that great, but he was into it. You know, he's like, oh, we're in town again. You come early, you know, we'll take care of you. And I did, you know, I was always like, yeah, all right, cool. I'll go, you know, I'd just roll in with my camera and start shooting. And then I went to the Clash of the Titans tour with Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer, and Alice in Chains. And I saw Alice in Chains and I bought that record like maybe a week or two before that tour, that show. And I loved that band. I was like, wow, this band's great. But they didn't really, like, to me, they didn't seem to fit in on the bill. But then I was really like a little like music nerd. I would go and collect guitar picks from bands. And I asked one of the roadies from Megadeth for Dave Mustaine pick. He's like, oh, well, I'll give you something better. Here's a backstage pass. You can go meet the band after the show. I'm like, cool. So I went backstage and I bumped into Jerry Cantrell and kind of, you know, met him, and he invited me to go see him in Portland the next day. So I went out with my buddies in Portland, and that's like, we hung out with Alice in Chains all day. And, you know, Kerry King called me an asshole because I asked him for a guitar pick and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But, and I told him I was a photographer, and he's like, oh, next time we're in town, bring your camera and, you know, you can shoot some photos. And then they play the Channel. And that's when Lane was in a wheelchair and he kicked my brother in the face because he was hanging from the rafters. And, yeah, you know, every time Alice in Chains would come, Jerry would reach out and be like, hey, we're coming to your area if you want to come hang out. I would just go see them all the time. And he loved my photos too. So, you know, they were just really encouraging, like, just keep doing it. You know, if you love it. I'm like, yeah, because I can't play guitar. He's like, well, not everybody's a good guitar player. I'm like, oh, I'm the worst. So, you know, he's like, well, you're a decent photographer. Keep going with it, you know? So I just, every time I get a little money, I'd buy a new camera or a new lens or something and more film and whatnot. And then when digital hit, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can just take 200 photos of the same band and you know, just edit them down and whatnot, and not have to buy 5 rolls of film and pay to develop everything and stuff. So, you know, it worked out pretty good. I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm on the right path, you know?
I just as a kind of closing thought, I think about the history of concert photographers, and some of these photographers literally shot like 18 shots at a show of like the Ramones and the Talking Heads and Blondie would play a matinee at CB's, and they took like 21 photos, and they all had to be good or not good.
Oh yeah.
What you got is what you got.
Right. Exactly. Like, you know, and you had to know what you were doing, you know, like there's some of my earliest stuff isn't great at all, but like some of the oldest Pantera stuff I have is some of my favorite because it's on film and it's, you know, there's pyro in it and there's just like, you know, it's, you know, it's not perfect, but it's just, it's capturing a moment like, you know, that you don't see, you know, like it's not a pretty photo, but it's still cool to me. You know what I mean? Like I have one of the flaming Pantera logo, and that's all it is, just the fire logo. And I'm like, that's one of my favorite photos. You know, it's pretty rad.
That's a great one for real. Dude, it has been so awesome to catch up with you and actually hear some more of your history and promote this incredible thing that Steel Panther is doing. Sex, JPEGs, and Rock and Roll continues with their series with Evil Rob on March 15th. It's going to be at steelpantherrocks.com. It's going to be live streamed, I think.
Yeah.
The band is going to be in the chat with fans.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm glad to be part of it. I'm glad they picked me. You know?
And me too. I'm so glad, man.
Yeah.
Keep your head up. Hopefully it's going to all come back soon. And someday I hope we'll be in the pit again.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Now, you know, maybe we'll be in the same fucking side of the country again.
Sooner than later.
Yeah, definitely.
Peace, bro. Thank you so much.
Welcome, man. Thanks. Love you, dude.
Love you too, man.